the day's not over yet. The last thing I'm going to look at, and yes, I am just topping these. I'm not really sure why I have this one up here for any particular reason, but we'll look at it. I still have the short chart up here. We know we're not going to get a whole lot of gain off of it, but that's besides the point. We can look and see how things are working and how to trade it. Now, we've got 3 charts up here. We can see that this has been pretty flat if we look at the tops up here. And it looks like it might be setting up to go short. Same token, it has set up to go short over here. I'm pretty much even on my charts, not here though. Yeah, that's pretty much. Looks like it. We did get signal here. We did get a signal in here, but I still got some upward movement here, and I'd like to make sure that this is really moving down. So now we get a signal over here, and I can't see my other chart. That was here. Yeah, we're good. We could take this trade. We've already got signals going here, and we're going to put a stop in. Probably a conservative stop would be right about here. I'm looking up here. We're looking at about an average spread of about 0.6. We can do 0.06 rather. We can do 0.12. That's a real close stop. It's not very much money to risk. And if we entered that trade, we would have a little run down, bouncing off of here. Let's see where it goes. I don't have a clue. Well, we came back and it retraced, and it might have stopped us out. Or we might have just decided to get out before it stopped us out. But it wouldn't have been much of a gain. But again, didn't lose much. See, wait a while, you take another trade. There's another setup here. And I see my friend Brian Close just got online. Canadian. We have another setup here. There's another trade that you can take. That's all there is to it. I mean, just don't analyze it to death. Now, one thing you'll notice in this trade over here, and it's one that I would not have taken, though I would not prohibited somebody else from taking it, but one of the things I always check is my volume. Some people don't use it, but you notice at the bottom, not only is the bottom low, but it's lower than it was on the previous candles. When you compare with some of these others, like this signal here, the volume is higher than the previous candle, and it looks like it's at least at average or maybe breaking average. And we have the same thing setting up right here. So if we took this trade right here, we'd be at good volume on both candles. Does that mean you can't take it sooner than that? No. I'm just saying that your chances of getting a successful trade are a bit better if you'd have some volume to push it in your direction. Now, let's see if that's true. Let's say we took that trade here with that volume. Does it really do anything for us? The last trade sure didn't. Well, there you see volume at work. Took us right on down here. Oh, my goodness. Well, certainly want to get out before you get to that green arrow. I would suggest you get out after it gaps on you. But you had noticed that it was going to stop, because you had all these really terrific volumes on the bottom. And then you start to see volume starting to drop off. And right at that point, it's on this little bitty candle that you can barely see here. And then there's just a dot, and there is no volume. That would be a dandy time to get out. Plus, look at the time, 16:03. That's end of the normal trading day. So a lot of people get out of their positions, and that would be a good time for you to get out as well. Now, that's all I have to cover about just generalized trade entries. If there's something you'd like me to talk about more specifically, or whatever, just put it up there. Barry, you got anything for me to address yet?
Oh yeah, yeah. A lot of questions have been coming in, so thank you for that. I'll tell you what. Before some of the questions are regarding pullbacks, how to trade pullbacks, and so forth, and this is a question too that I've received quite often. But you know, there's something in your program I don't think a lot of people know about. So let's do this. This is something I don't think a lot of people are aware of. It actually has the ability to adjust where the arrows pop up. In other words, more with the cycle highs and cycle lows as opposed to the extended cycles. So if you would, why don't you pull up the edit study, pull up the Top Dog Visualize Trader, and show them in the inputs. Yeah, there you go. And, well, not, yeah.
I was getting ready to go to the program.
No, we don't do that. Okay, now scroll down to K limit.
Okay.
And explain to them what that is. It defaults to 0, which means that the arrow can pop up at any time where the stochastic indicator might happen to be on the range.
Mary,
but you can.
What do you? K limit sounds like an old study.
Oh, you don't have. Oh. K limit. Yeah, you got some. Keep going down, down. That
old study.
Oh, is that only in the old study?
Yeah, that's an old study, and it caused some problems, so I took it out. But what that was, it was just all it did was it prevented a signal from triggering when the K got above a certain level or below a certain level. That's what it did. And if that's some kind of feature you want, I can put it back in. That's not a big deal.
Oh, yeah, I've had people ask about that, and I've got it on mine. Hey, how come you gave me an old version? How come I don't have the latest version, Gary?
Well, I gave you a version way back when. Way back when. That was long before we decided to start marketing this thing. And then, of course, I sent you the most current version as well.
Yeah.
What you did with it, I don't know.
Yeah, you probably did send it to me, and I'm just so incredibly busy that I don't know. Somehow it didn't cross my radar. Okay, so that option's no longer there.
What that did is eliminated errors is what it did. It didn't really give you some new insight. It just took errors away.
Yes, correct. Yeah. Correct. So I don't know. I think there's people who would like to see that option. Now, did it create, you said something about it created problems?
Yeah, it created problems with people is what it did.
Oh.
The program didn't have a problem with it, but people were getting all confused on how to use it, and so I took it out, rather than, that was when I was testing it, when I had all these folks all over the country using it.
Right.
And I said, well, if the people are going to have a problem with it, then, I don't want to put it in there, because they were having a hard time understanding what a K limit was. And yeah, I can put it back in it, but it's not a big deal.
Yeah, maybe, I mean, you could put it in and then we can, maybe do a little instructional video on it. I will say that, I've played around with it, and it does limit the arrows plotting only at more of a cycle high or cycle low, which is kind of what I think those people were looking for. On the other hand, I also noticed that when you limit it so much, you also end up missing some really good signals.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons that that is one of the reasons that, in addition to people having problems with it, I saw that when I traded with it, that I was missing a lot of good trades. And I remember when I was using just your signals, no TD Visualize Trader, with just a regular old Top Dog Trader, I realized that the K doesn't mean anything when it hits the top, because it's a bounded indicator.
Correct.
And if you had enough good stuff going for it could just run along happily over there above the 80, bouncing around, not having any direction whatsoever, and resolving some very good trades.
Right.
So I said, rather than keeping myself out of those trades, I quit worrying about where K was.
Yeah.
as far as that was. Just as long as it wasn't headed in the wrong direction, then I was okay with it. So the way the system's set up is it won't allow you to have a trade if K has turned to head back the other direction. But it will allow you to have a trade because a lot of time there's a lot of room to still make money in that trade.
Exactly correct, right. And the system, or the theory of cycles is you have what they call left and right translation. I'm getting technical now, but basically what that means is in an uptrend, the move up, the impulse move, will last longer in time and duration. Well, time and duration is the same thing, time and range. And what that does to the stochastic indicator is exactly what you said. It'll make it go up to the top and then just bounce along the top. So just because it's at the top, as long as the dominant energy is long, stochastic being at the top of the range means pretty much nothing. It becomes meaningless at that level because of the bounded nature of the indicator, as you said. So that's why it can, by eliminating it so much, will actually eliminate some really good trades, and I've noticed that too. Okay, well, let's get to some questions that people have posted now. So I'm just going to take them in the order they came in. Let's see. Wait a minute. Do I have? Oh, okay. I gotta scroll here to get to the earlier ones. Okay. So first one. Oh, this is a long one. All right. Number one. Based on top dog visualized indicators. And you may have addressed some of these already, so you know, if you have, well, I'll just turn them over to you and you can say what you want.
Okay.
Based on the top dog visualized indicators, we buy when we have 3 green arrows and sell vice versa. I'm using a 40-minute, 2-hour, and 1-day time frames. For example, other day, one of the stock Z, which is Zillow, which is a online real estate website, I did throw these signals for buy. By the time the signals are out, the stock is already up $15. Stochastics on all 3 pretty much reached above 55. The question is, are we entering when the move is already done? As per Top Dog methodology, we would have entered upon retrace. How to handle in these situations?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Well, basically, he's saying, okay, by the time all 3 arrows on all 3 time frames align, going up in this case, you've already had a pretty significant move.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah. And so if I'm interpreting the question correctly, this trader is wondering if we're getting in late to the move as opposed to waiting for a retrace.
Okay, I got an answer for that question.
Okay.
The answer is yes and no. Now, I know that sounds like I'm being cutesy, but I'm not. I'm serious. You know, I just talked to you about entering trades with or without, you know, 3 arrows or whatever. And basically what the 3 arrows does, it makes the trade a higher probability trade, but in most cases, it's going to eliminate the amount of reward that you get for that trade because you're not taking that earlier entry. You can't have it both ways. If you want a high probability trade, you're going to have to give up some of the risk. And that's why it works that way. So all you have to do is not worry about all 3 arrows lining up. Just make sure that you have the number of arrows that you wish. I would suggest at least 1 on your long chart and 1 somewhere in the scheme of things. For instance, let's just take this chart right here. I hope I can get, I think I can. Let's just take this one here, and I'm going to just make some assumptions here. That, you know what happens when you make assumptions. But if you were using the, I got too many lines on there. Clean this up a little bit. I'm trying to find when the scan would pick it up here. Well, I know it picked it up here. If you were scanning on the day, the 2 hour, you would get a scan hit here. And we'll go back and see if I can get the short chart back to here. Come pretty close. At this point, well, what happened to my short signal? I may not be able to get it on the short chart. Might be too far back because the short chart's based on 20 days. It's the only way I can get a 40-minute time frame. This is on 212. This, oh yeah, we can get it on there. We sure can. Got to find it. That's 2.5. I went 2.4 is what it was. But I want to make this point because this is very important. 210. Somewhere in here. 211. Well, it's like pulling teeth. Here we go. I know we're coming close. Yeah, here's 212. Well, wouldn't you know, they line up on all three charts. Okay, I was hoping that I'd have one where it wouldn't line up here, so I can show you that you don't need signals in all three charts. And you know, that's another problem too. I'm depicting something that's a lie because I have the short time frames up here, so I need to change that back to match his question. Okay, here we go. We'll see if we can go from here. Where are we? This is 10, 12. Oh no, we can't go back that far. This is 121, 1229, so we're almost there. Right in here somewhere. Yep. And then somewhere on the short chart, I don't even know if I can get 121. 123, okay, good enough. Okay, we have a signal that actually it does a little more. Wow, it didn't line up. All right, here, I want to show you this. We got a signal here, right here on this long chart where that area is. I'm flying around it here. And then we got another signal that pops up here. And one could say, well, you know what? I don't want a signal on the short chart. I don't need it. I just want to make sure that I got two signals here and they don't need to line up, and that would be a perfectly allowable trade. But what often happens is this happens because you don't have the three confirmations. It'll go up, it'll come back, and that doesn't mean it's a dead trade, but in this case it would have been. And it just doesn't give you all the confirmation that you would have if you had the three signals. But I'm trying to get the first two signals before I can get to the third one. And that occurs here. We got a signal here on the very long chart and a signal here on the middle chart. And we got a super big candle, and frankly I wouldn't take the trade because of the size of the candle. But it is not prohibited if you wanted to take it. It generally comes back on you when it does that. Not always, but a lot of times it does. Boy, this is a real problem. Here's the candle right here. We're going to use it anyway. We're going to ignore the fact that it's a long candle. And again, we have three signals on three candles. I'm having a hard time finding a bad trade here. That's where my problem lies. In the end, you're going to have to find this on your own time, because I just don't have time to find one. But in the end, a lot of times you'll find a setup that looks really good, like right here on this middle chart. Looks really great. You're already moving up. You can take the trade, and it just doesn't hold out. It goes for a while, but then it just burns up. And then you look at it just a little further down the road, to say at a few candles down the road, where all three charts have a signal on the chart, and it's a more successful trade, but you'll be further into the trade, so you'll lose the first part of it. So the only difference is you take away some of the risk that the trade won't continue on, but you also take away some of the reward too when you do that. So it's just a change off between risk and reward. You do not have to have all three candles lined up. If you want to take the trade earlier, nothing prevents you. Find where you already have a mark of the green candle and just take it when you get you the next green candle. I don't mean green candle, I mean green arrow. It's already marked here, for instance, on the long chart. You could take it right here if you wanted to. It's legitimate. I'm sure Dr. Burns trades that away. I know he does, because he shows me he does that. That's using two charts. If you want to, you can do the same thing on three charts. You can say, you can do it this way. Here's the way you can do it. But activate this. Okay, we got a mark here on my long chart. And then we go over, and the first mark we get here is on this chart. And we're sitting here, and then the next mark we get is on this chart. Well, you don't really need a next mark because you already had one here. So you could actually take the trade right there. And all three charts are in sync. Now, this particular error is a freak. It's an anomaly in the code. And the reason it is because this measures the up and down angle of the moving average to the, I don't know, 4 or 5 decimal places. And if it's just that much to the positive, it will give it credit for going positive. So you might be leery when you see one little green spot, but it was still a legitimate signal. Best to wait till it actually appears like the 50 is flattening out and getting ready to change, and take the trade here. And you'll see that that does not line up on all three charts, but it still will resolve into be an excellent trade. I hope I answered the question.
Okay, we've got a bunch more questions, so yeah, let's move on to get to these other people as well. Jack is asking, does it work with tick charts?
Yes.
Okay, that was quick. Yeah, and I can vouch for that because I use it with tick charts as well. Okay, next one is, well, I don't know what to say about this. I set up last week but have not had very good results. I'm using the ES, been lining up 300 tick, 900, and 2700 tick, but so far he's not, not been very lucky, as he says.
Well, I can respond to that because I've had some people who have said that very same thing to me, and I worked with them a little bit. And frankly, it's not a fault of the system. It's the trader not having a real solid trade plan, so that they're doing it the same way every time. They're just looking at the blue arrows or green arrows, whatever color they are on your computer, and it's more than that. You have to look at your wave count. You have to make sure that you've got a good positive trend going for you. And with the market we've had lately, you may be trading a choppy market, and if you are, it's going to cut you to pieces. So I really can't answer what's going on, why you're not successful with it, but I can assure you it's not because the arrow's in the wrong place. They're appearing in the right place. There's something else going on. I'll be glad to communicate with you on it. I can't walk you through it on a day-to-day basis, but I'll look at what you're doing. I'll make some comments. But until I see what you're doing, I'm at a loss to comment.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to comment on an individual trader and what they're doing. You never know for sure. But to that person, go ahead and email Gary and maybe send him some screen captures. Attach them to your email. Show him some trades you've taken. That's probably the best thing to do. And then he can look at those and give you feedback on some specific trades. Okay? All right. Let's see. Next person asked how to play retracement with these.